My name is Tunde Ajayi. I was born a very poor boy, but I could remember that immediately after the death of my father, and the story of my life started changing. I used to go into the library. That was when I started seeing some of these novels, prose, and all of that. So I used to read them in the library, and that was how I started picking up my books. But then the kind of job that I got for the first time in my life was the job of a messenger. But as time went on, the messenger work that I was doing was getting reduced. So I had to be doing more of typing. Next year, I will be in 400 level, my final year. And I said to myself that I will be the playwright. I will be the one that will write the script that you I will present. There were 5 of us. By the time we finished the performance,
as we explore the story of a visionary, the former general manager of the Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State, a rare gem in the media industry. Renowned for his exceptional leadership, he inspires those around him and serves as a dedicated mentor to many. As an advocate and defender of truth, he has guided countless individuals towards success. In addition to his impactful career in broadcasting, he is also a respected author, adding yet another layer to his legacy of influence and excellence. Make welcome, Mr. Tunde Ajayi.
I'm really glad to be here this afternoon. Today, I'm happy. I'm very, very happy that I'll be speaking to these people, you people and all the other people that are listening to us. My name is Tunde Ajayi. I was born a very poor boy. Very poor. My father, the name of my father is Paul Olaniba Ajayi.
Okay.
And my mother is Wuro Ola. Omori Ola.
Okay.
Omori Ola. Alice Omori Ola Ajayi. They were both from Ilora, in Oyo State. So I'm a child from Ilora. I was specifically born in Ghana.
Wow.
Over 60 years ago. I started attending primary school in Ghana before we were moved from Ghana to Nigeria.
Okay.
And coming back to Nigeria, we had to settle at a town in Okiogun, that was Ilero. Specifically, we were there. I could remember in my primary school days, when I was in Ilora, I was a dullard. When I was in Ilero, I was a dullard.
Ilero, that is when you moved to Nigeria?
No. When on coming back from Ghana,
Yeah.
we settled in Ilero.
Okay.
Even though I was born I am a native of Ilora.
Okay.
And I was born in Ghana. But we settled in Ilero.
Okay.
While I was in Ilero, I continued my education, primary school education, in Ilero. And that was when I was referring to as a time when I was a dullard.
Okay.
I wouldn't know what was responsible for that. But I could remember that immediately after the death of my father, we were moved from Ilero to Ilora, and the story of my life started changing. Maybe because of the death of my father, I came to realize that, yes, I needed to prepare for my future. I knew then that I was having no one as a father figure that would be there for me all the time. So something just clicked in my brain that I needed to change my lifestyle. I needed to get prepared for my future. And so I started facing my education. And all of a sudden, I started getting first, second, third in class. Suddenly, things just changed.
No specific prayers, no any special. It was just a decision in your mind that,
yes,
I'm going to change.
Decision, prayer, I would say prayer, yes.
Okay.
Because as a small boy, who lost his father, a beloved father, and a father I was so proud of. I looked all around and I felt that the only thing I could do to show my love to my father was to have a future that was meaningful.
Yeah.
So that was what was responsible for, part of what was responsible for the change in my behavior and my being a responsible boy then. So I finished my education, primary school education at Ilora. Then I had a father, a younger brother to my father. You know, it's this extended family thing. He was...
Sorry to cut you. How many wives did your father?
My father had 2 wives.
He was very modest.
Well, my mother is the youngest wife. I have brothers. Yes, some of them died. And I just have one elder brother, a younger brother. I have an elder sister. I also have a younger sister. All of them are alive now. So, but the other ones died. So, when I was at Ilora, I finished my education, primary school education at Ilora. So, I was trying to refer to my father's younger brother, in person of Chief Dr. A.O. Odeleye. He's late now. I remember that night I was in Ilora, a poor boy, with my mother. My mother then used to tell us that one thing our father told her when he was about to die was the fact that, look, woman, please, I'm going. I just have to go. But then these children, make sure that they all have education. Whatever you have to do to ensure they have education, please do.
Was he educated?
No.
Father?
My father was not. Okay. He was not educated, but he loved education. So also my mother. I think my father, maybe he read some books because he used to speak some little English. He was very interested in education, very, very interested in education. And that was why I wouldn't know. And then because of the fact that some other members of his family were educated, and he came to appreciate the importance of education in the lives of people. So that was why he wanted all his children to also go to school. I picked some English sentences from him, even though he used to pronounce some of the words wrongly, but you could always feel or understand what he was trying to refer to. So he told my mother that we all had to be educated. So my mother used to tell all of us. So again, that, buttressed the fact, my determination to go to school and all of that. So my mother, on getting back to Ilora from Ilero, we were moved from Ilero after the death of my father. We had to settle back at home in Ilora. My mother had a brother, Baba Oyiniyi Olale, also late now. He was not also educated, but he was a very popular man in Ilora. He was a tailor, but a very popular one. So he had to, my brother, my younger brother and I, Gabriel Ajayi, and I had to be living with him. And then we were going to school. And because he was also a farmer, naturally we had to be going to farm with him and all of that. I didn't find that easy anyway. But because my father, when he was in Ilero, he was also a farmer, so we were doing farming. So these were childhood memories. But they are very powerful memories that were to shape my future. Oh, yeah. So we used to go to the farm, and I went through school at Ilora. That was primary school. And by the grace of God, everything changed. I started making good results and all of that. I was one of the popular students in school, because you see, when you're able to pass your exams, you're able to, this subject, that subject, you become somebody at least to be reckoned with in class.
The favorite of the teachers.
The favorite of the teachers, and all of that. Yeah. I used to have teachers who loved me, all of that. I remember one of them used to call me Lobito as a child.
What's the meaning of Lobito?
I wouldn't know why he gave me that, but he loved me, and I was one of those popular students around in my primary school at Ilora. So when I finished my primary school education, that was primary 6, I remember this night that Baba Odeleye came to our house to visit at Ilora, then told my mother that he wanted me to follow him to Ibadan. So I had no option, so I had to come with him to Ibadan. That again was another turning point for me.
And you were still in primary school?
No, I had just finished my primary 6 education then. So he said I should come to Ibadan to start my secondary school education. So I came. And then that was 1977. So I was enrolled at St. Gabriel's Commercial Modern School. There was a difference between modern school and commercial modern school. For commercial modern school, you had to spend 4 years. For modern school, you had to spend 3 years. So that was then for secondary school, the usual secondary school, it's 5 years. So I was enrolled there. And that was at Mokola. The school is still there now. That's St. Gabriel's Secondary School, modern school then, commercial modern school, Mokola. So I was enrolled there and I started. And I remember again something that happened. My first year in that school did not give me good results as well. And the reason is not far-fetched. A bush boy who was coming from Ilora, scoring first, second, third, coming over to compete with some other pupils or students who went to nursery primary school.
Grade 8 there is like
grade
nothing.
Grade nothing in Ibadan. So when I came around and we did the examination, I failed woefully. I failed. And I looked at myself. I said, what? Me, that was taking first, second, third position in Ilora, coming to Ibadan to take the 20th position out of about 29 students in class. You know what happened? When I got home and I gave Baba, that's Chief Ebel Ogunlokun, my result, he looked at the result and made one statement which I will never forget in my life. He said it in Yoruba. He said, Ofeli, wọ́n sì gbọ́ Ọlọ́run. Ofeli, wọ́n sì gbọ́ Ọlọ́run.
Wait, to interpret that means you failed and heaven had.
Yes, but to me as a child, I felt very bad because I felt that my father who died also heard in heaven that I failed on earth.
Oh, now I get
So that was, as a child, that was the way I thought about the whole thing. I said, so I disappointed my beloved father. I loved my father so well, and he also loved me so much. I felt very, very bad about it, about that result. That mo fail láyé, bàbá mi náà dẹ̀ tún gbọ́ Ọlọ́run pé mo fail. I didn't like it at all because I didn't like to disappoint my father. Because, so again, like I said, that changed my life. That statement. So, beginning from that time on, I had to sit down extra to do my studies.
Another moment of decision.
Another moment of decision again in my life. There was this lady in my class, at Mokola and St. Gabriel's Commercial Modern School. We used to call Kemi Malomo. I still remember the name very well. Kemi Malomo was...
Is that the original surname, Malomo?
Malomo, yes, that's the original surname. Kemi Malomo was like... She went to this nursery primary school. And whenever she was speaking English, because she was very fluent in the English language. Queen's English. No man so well. But I got to see that as time went on, if Kemi Malomo made one statement, the statement she made, fluently of course, she could not write down. So I got to now see that, so you also have your weakness. In spite of the fact that you spoke Queen's English or whatever English you were speaking, as I'm talking now, she could not write the words down. She could not write correct spelling. But I could. You see the difference? So I okay. So it was then I now started understanding that. So it's one thing to be able to speak fluently. It's another thing actually to be able to construct your English language and then to be able to write it down and get the spellings correctly. All of these things. Another thing. There was this day, then as a student, because I was not, again, the first time of my first year in secondary school at St. Gabriel's, like I told you, I failed. So I sat down, started rearranging my life and my study life. And when you are not a sound student in class, you tend to be relegated by all the students. They don't count you as one of them. They count you as one of the loafers around, that kind of. So I was. So they saw me. There was this guy, smart. I'll remember now. But smart. Can you come? He was my classmate. Smart used to be one of these guys, that used to do guy in class. Sound, of course, very, very sound. But me, I was not sound. There was this day. One of the ladies in class used to have a kind of emotional love for me, a kind of care for me. Maybe out of the fact that I was regarded as a nobody in class. And I used to just walk around quietly and all of that. But she used to have pity on me. So, Smart being one of the, these guys, there was, maybe he was having a feeling that I was actually going out with that lady. Me, I was not, I wasn't doing all of that anyway. Because my concern was for my education. Because, I feel that I needed to redeem my image. So, there was this day. And then there was nobody who could challenge Smart. You can in class. You can. Mama. But there was this day he annoyed me. And I had to tap him. Boy, kilo share. And he looked at me. And he made that statement. He said, you to me, Iwo, Mowe, Tun Laye, Tun Leja. As soon as he said that, all the strength and confidence in me faded immediately. And I looked at myself again. But again and again, that was another point of decision for me. And I told myself, okay, I need to prove my mettle in this class. I need to reorganize my life. I need to start topping the class. I started telling myself that I could do it. Fortunately for me, at home in Ibadan, we used to stay at Bodija. You know, when I was staying with Chief Odele. Chief Odele was a very well-read person.
But before you go too far, sir,
Okay.
how were you able to manage school? You know, you said you're wearing that brilliant,
Yeah.
and all those kind of things,
Yeah.
not wealthy, and I mean, not coming from that kind of a family where you went to a nursery primary. So how were you able to manage those things in school? I know that point where you confronted, what's the name of the guy? Smart.
Yeah.
Was not the only point where you had to probably prove yourself.
No, it wasn't.
So how were you able to manage the whole scenario in school with those kind of mentality of, okay, I think I'm not the best?
Yeah.
And those kind of, how were you able to manage it to this point where you now had to probably make a decision?
Oh,
How did you manage those?
Thank you, because then don't forget that I told you that the statement Baba made, that was a kind of a reminder always to me that you just need to move on. You need to do something. You need to be somebody.
So no matter what they are doing,
no matter
that
what
was
they
the
are
conditioning
doing,
of the
that
mind.
was the conditioning of my mind. Not only that, something helped me.
Okay.
I was a good runner.
Oh.
I'd been a footballer at Tilora, but in Ibadan, I wasn't good in football, but I was a runner. I was an athlete anyway. So, that's an advantage for me. So, even though when it came to education, when it came to mathematics, commerce, and all of that, even though I wasn't good, I was not to be reckoned with. But when it came to sports, I can run. I can run.
You still have something like an anchor
to hold on to. So that was part of what helped me at that time, to be able to beef up my confidence. It wasn't easy. I need to let you know that it wasn't easy, because when you had some other students who had to look down on you, and so you need to struggle to pick up your life in the midst of people like that. So with the support of God, at the home front, Baba was well read, and all the children, they went to nursery primary school, well read too. And so Baba had a library. So I used to go into the library. That was when I started seeing some of these novels, prose, and all of that. I remember Alice in Wonderland used to be in that library, Alice in Wonderland. So I picked up that place. And King Solomon's Mine. Some of these old stories by some of these English writers, popular ones. So I used to read them in the library, and that was how I started picking up myself. Don't forget that I told you that Ilora, where I was coming from, I used to score first, second, third. So, that means that there was a latent ability in me, which was just resting or suppressed because of the fear of these giants, that I was looking at, who went to nursery primary school, and me just coming from the bush, Ilora, that kind of a thing. Anyway, by the time we finished the third term,
still the first year. Okay.
Second term, I failed. First term, I failed. Second term, I failed. Third term, the story changed. I passed, even though passed.
But this time,
but this time around, by the time we came to second year, third year, fourth year, second, third year, àwọn smart wọ́n sáré tẹ̀lé mi.
Wow.
They were running after me. Why? Because my story had changed. So that giant in me had woken up by the power of the Almighty God. That giant had woken up in me. So
There was even no place for mediocrity because when you get back home, you are meeting people who are well read.
Exactly.
So there was no place for you
There
to
was
be
none.
relaxed or
There was none.
so the people
So
you were
that helped
surrounded
me a
with
great
also,
deal.
Yeah.
All my brothers, I remember Brafemi, Brabdimi, Stalola, Stop, all of them. In fact, these are people who were very sound, brilliant. So, and I was in their midst. How will I not be brilliant? Baba himself, very, very brilliant.
All of these things were a challenge. Your brain has to.
No. My brain woke up in the midst of these people. My brain woke up. So that latent, latent ability in me woke up. So that was how I started topping the class. And by the time I finished, I was back.
Wow.
I was back. So I remember I got a lot of prizes when I was leaving. I remember particularly because I used to like commas, shorthand, typing, and accounting. All of those ones I got prizes in them. First, second, third prizes. That kind of a thing. And particularly, and most importantly, literature.
You went to arts?
Oh yes, I did arts. So, yes. So that's it. Then afterward, I finished my modern school. I went to work at the local government that was then Afijo local government or your South local government.
Okay, sorry to cut you. So after the secondary school, no uni, no poly, whatever.
Not yet. I worked.
Certificate was still enough for you to work.
Yeah, exactly. Of course,
Wow.
It was.
Now the masters is still begging for something.
Oh yes, it was. But then the kind of job that I got for the first time in my life was the job of a messenger.
Okay.
Oh yes, I worked as a messenger with the local government, with my local government. But even then at that, I remember what happened. Though a messenger, don't forget that I said I did shorthand, typewriting, and because it was a commercial school where we were taught all of those commercial subjects like shorthand, typewriting, commerce, accounting, and all of that. So when I was working with the local government, I used to have one boss, Prince Bola Owade, now late. Prince Bola Owade came to discover me that this boy is brilliant too, even though I was a messenger. Whenever he wanted to write a letter, he would write it, by the time he finished writing it, he would give it to the typist to type. Then I will start picking errors, grammatical errors in those, and I have Augusta. There's an error there. He will correct it. With humility, okay. Of course, because he was my organa. So then one day, I think a typist didn't show up in the office, so I had to sit down on the typewriter and type. Everybody was like, so you know how to type? Because don't forget, we used to grade the typing ability by 35 words per minute, 60 words per minute, 120 words per minute. I was above 35 words per minute. I was close to 50 words per minute. I was very good in typewriting. In typewriting, I was very, very good. Not these days that you use computer and all of that. Yeah, so then, I was using this manual typewriter. So I was very good in it. So there was that day I was asked to type a letter. So I sat down by the typewriter and I typed the letter beautifully with speed.
Yeah, of course, 50 words, but that's almost a is it a letter now? Is it 50 words?
Yes, wow. 50 words per minute.
That's almost like a word in a second.
You finished all the letter.
Wow.
So they looked at me and everybody started gazing at me. So you know how to type? You know how to type? Of course I did. I know how to type. So don't forget I was a messenger.
Yeah.
So they started giving me typing jobs to do. A messenger. Sometimes they would send me on errands. But as time went on, the messenger work that I was doing was getting reduced. So I had to be doing more of typing. Because it got to a time that my oga would just tell me, he would give me a file, say, write a letter. He would just deliver the verbally to me. He would write a letter to this, tell them that blah, 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 blah. So I would just sit down by the typewriter, and from my brain, I'll type on the typewriter. So I'll get the thing ready for him, and he will sign it and send it. There was this day that the secretary to the local government secretary, the typist, they used to say one thing, that there is this stenographer. You could be a stenographer or a typist. What we used to have, or what we have mostly, are typists. Typists are people who copy what they see on paper. Right. Even when you made a mistake, they will still type that mistake.
Just like you are photocopying.
Just like you are photocopying. So they call them copy typist, because they just copy anything they see. They won't be able to identify errors. But for stenographers, they are very sound. They can type, but they are also knowledgeable about what typing. So they can identify errors and correct the errors. So they don't just type and give to the boss to sign. No, they correct everything.
Wow.
That's a stenographer. Yeah. So there was this day, the typist to the local government secretary didn't turn up, and they asked me to go and type. And from that day on, they moved me to the office of the secretary. Even though I was still officially a messenger. So I started, because I was, by implication, the best typist, of course, stenographer, that the whole local government had. So they had to, even though you're a messenger. So I moved from the other messengers, and I started until I made my papers. Then they promoted me to a clerical assistant, then clerical officer, then senior clerical officer, and all of that. Well,
all those times of promotions and whatever were still those periods when you had finished secondary school.
Oh yes. So now, having finished my secondary school, in fact, the fact that I was working did not deter me from studying. My determination to go to university and have my degree was still very, very strong. And I didn't drop that idea while I was even working. I remember I met one of my teachers in St. Gabriel's. I came to Ibadan from Jobele, or Ilora. And I met him inside one taxi like that, Mr. Ladipo. And he was asking me where I was. I said, I'm working with the local government. He felt very bad. He said, oh, they used to call me Jonathan. Oh, you guy, you won't go to school again. The moment you start earning money, the lure to go to school, we not be there again. The urge to go to school will not be there again, and all of that. But I assured him, I said, sir, I will make sure I go to school. I'll make sure I didn't allow myself to be spoiled by the money that I was earning. I'll make sure I keep on studying so that I'll be able to go to school. So these are words that I can't forget. So that was a promise that I made to someone, and I prayed to God that I was going to make it, and I was able to make it.
Okay, I have a question. The money you were earning then, was it like just for personal use, or like you were using it to also contribute to the family you were staying?
Oh, definitely. Okay. By that time, I was staying with my mommy, Laura, and my other siblings, those who were around then. So I used to, of course, do one or two things and all of that. But apart from that, most importantly, don't forget that I said I was still, bent on going to university. So I started taking this Rapid Resource College of London. It was a correspondence college. correspondent. It is Rapid Resource College of London. They will send notes to me from London. So I had tutors. They call them tutors, not teachers. But they call them tutors. They were teaching me. So they were preparing me for O-level. They were preparing me for O-level. So they will send textbooks to me or notebooks, not even textbooks. There were tutors. We had tutors for English, all the subjects that I was doing. I was into arts. So they were sending those things to me. I was paying them. Yes, that was what I was using part of my salary to do then. So I was paying them. They would say, then the postal service was very good then. Very, very good. So they would send those books to me from London. Then I would go and collect them at the post office. Then sit down and I would study. They taught me how to study. That was the first note they sent to me. How to study. That was the topic. How to study. So they taught me how to study.
I still remember a bit of the tactics there.
The tactics
of how to study.
Yes.
Okay, just brief us.
Very well. It was a Spartan kind of life.
Okay.
They taught me to first do a timetable. So I had a timetable. They asked me how many hours I could study conveniently or in a day. So if it was 8 hours, you would do it in such a way that your 8 hours will not be at a stretch. They allow for time for me to do my cooking, my eating, my playing with my friends, my going to church and all of that. That timetable accommodated all of that. Right. I did the timetable by myself, send it to them. They went through it, they asked questions, then they send it back to me. So, but you have to make sure you follow the timetable. Very, very important. Discipline.
You feel good or you feel bad. You follow the
Everything is timed. They taught me how to manage time, how to use time. So now they told me that in how to study,
yes, sir,
you have to do a timetable and you have to follow the timetable strictly. And then they told me that because they created a time for me to go and play with my friends. So the time, let's say I have to do my study, maybe I had to read a particular subject between 12 and 1. But when it is 1 o'clock, I have to take time to go and play around. But this last subject that I read, let's say it was economics. By the time I was playing with my friend, I had to be remembering the subjects that I just read, particularly the topics and some of the points. I had to remember them. So by the time I finished playing and I came back, I would pick that note again. Some of the points that I was not able to remember, I'll quickly open the book and remember them. Go through the notebook and then try to pick out those points again. So those things were sticking in my brain.
While you are playing,
yes, I was not just playing. I was playing, but I was also
break time for you to just refresh.
Yeah, exactly. That was part of what they taught me. They taught me to observe holidays. During public holidays, I had to stay at home, relax, and all of that. So it was not always read. No. You compulsorily you have to. Then they taught me one thing. At the back of each notebook, there were questions that you had to answer. And you have to do it under examination, situation or circumstance or condition. How? You have to, the day I will do the exam or do the test, I have to lock myself in, time myself. I have to know the time I started, or say I'm starting this exam or test at so time, then I'll start it. They will allow me time to finish it, but then I have to also write the time I finish. So start, stop, you have to write that time. Then I'll post it to London. Then they will now mark it and send it back to me with the correct answers. At the time, I had tutors, like I said, for each of the subjects. When the exams were getting closer, in fact, in all the subjects, they would tell me, if indeed you followed the instructions, you did not cheat and all of that, with what you have done, I am assuring you that you are going to pass this subject. I had that on several occasions. And lo and behold, I also told you, they taught me a lot of methods. They taught me that time when you get to the exam hall, you get your question mark, your question paper, quickly run through. And as you are running through, ideas will be coming to you, be jotting them down. Jot them down for some of the points that you are going to use for each of the questions. Jot them down. Then they told me that I have to have a time with me while I was writing the exam. So the time I was having a clock, I have to have a wristwatch that is working, or a clock, whatever that was working, that would be with me. They taught me that when they ask you a question like, what is economics, for example, or yes, what is economics, you quickly have to jot down the point that you're going to write before you start writing. Jot down your point, blah, 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 the key point, blah, 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 then before you now start building it. So in the first paragraph, if you have to give, let's say, factors of production, for example, you have to talk about factors of production. What are the factors of production? Before you start expatiating each of those points, first tell us the factors of production are land, capital, labor, knowledge. You first have to write those ones. Then, after writing that, you now start explaining what they are. That's part of the strategies that it taught me. I remember that very well. There was this slogan. I'm trying to remember the slogan now. Think fast, write fast.
Wow.
They taught me that. And I was trained on that. Think fast and write fast. So you have to think fast. Pam, 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 you are jotting down. So when it came to writing now, putting down everything together, I have to start writing fast. And I remember that during the time I went for my exams, I remember all the papers. There was even one paper, the English essay. By the time I finished writing the 2 essays that I had to write, they said 1 hour more. I looked around. 1 hour?
Done.
I'm done for my literature. Yeah, we used to have 3 papers. I think, and sometimes the papers, you didn't take them in a day, and they had to spread them. There was one, they said 40 minutes more. I was done. Another one, they said 30 minutes more, done. I was done. For literature, for example, at the end of the day, I still scored A1. After all
Think fast, write fast.
that was the theory. And they taught me how to think fast and write fast. So whenever I started writing, I will be writing with speed, because I had jotted down all the points. Think fast, write fast. So that was what I also taught my children. Because I still had that book with me, How to Study.
You still have it?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
I'll
go through that book.
I have it. It was the very first note they sent to you, Rapid Resource College of London, How to Study. So I now got to see that these Oyibo people, they are good, very, very sound in almost everything. Without me seeing those tutors face to face, they were in London, I was in Nigeria, and they were teaching. All you needed to do is just follow their instructions. The moment you follow instructions to the letter, you would make it. Even concerning pronunciation, they used to send me records. records of how certain words are pronounced. So I'll play back those, and I'll be reciting those things after the teacher or the tutor.
Was this process really expensive?
It wasn't. It was affordable for me. I wasn't collecting money from anybody to do it. It was part of my salary that I was using to do it. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't then. But today it's no longer. I don't think they are operating that system again. So, what else? So by the time the results came out, I passed. I had A1, A3. I think I wasn't good in science, so I did health science, and I think I have P7 in health science. That was the one I did because I needed to do one science subject. I did my accounting, I did commerce, I did economics, all of those. In commerce too, I had A1 because I loved commerce. I loved literature, my best subject, A1.
Okay, so moving down to the uni.
Oh yeah, university now. So at the time that's another story entirely. At that time, they used to do JAM. You do JAM, and after JAM, that's all. We didn't used to do post-JAM. We didn't used to do that. So I did JAM.
JAM has been around for
a long time. Yes, a long time. I did it in 85, 84, 85. So I did JAM. That again, I had a problem. At that time that I was working with local government, then my appointment was terminated. So I had to sit down at home. That was when I had time to face my studies very well. I wasn't doing any job.
It was terminated based on just
they could not pay my. No, it was a general thing. It happened during the time of General Buhari. The first time of being head of state, and that was 1994. After the military takeover, they had to. Before then, it was the politicians that were that were in government, and they recruited so many people, including myself. So they had to structure. So they said they should lay off all of those people. So I was affected. So I had to come back to Fiditi, where I was staying, and I was facing my studies, my correspondence college thing. I had done it earlier in 84, but because I was still working then, I hadn't enough time. But now I had to take the notes again, started going through them, following all the instructions. Then I didn't used to follow instructions, but I started following instructions. I now saw that it was good to follow instructions. So at that time, I sat down at home at Fidelity, and I was doing my study. I took JAM. And at that time, I was amongst friends who were going to school also. But I was sitting at home, doing my own study at home. While they were going to school, I was at home, doing my own study. And I remember that a brother to my elder brother said one thing to me. He said, you have to study very well, because I want to teacher and call you méjèèjì gan fail you. That was another challenge for me. And it was true, because students who were being taught directly by teachers, and me, who was being taught by distant tutors, But again, because I was following instruction, and then I used to do one thing then. For all the subjects, apart from the notes that they were sending to me, I also had textbooks. I used my money to buy textbooks. I'll give you an example. For economics, I had 3 textbooks on economics. So if I needed to read what is economics alone, I would take all the subject. And you know, because each writer has a peculiar way of explaining. So what I didn't get from this teacher or writer, I'll get in another. So I had that broad knowledge. Right. So that was another thing I used to do. And I read those economic textbooks 2-3 times from page 1 to the last page.
How are you able to cope with these home duties and all?
No, I was staying with my elder brother who understood, who gave me the laxity, that I needed to be able to do my studies. So I was always studying. Don't forget, I told you I had the timetable that I had to follow strictly. Of course, I had time to do cooking, eating, playing. But again and again, I had to follow. Each day, I had to read all the subjects. And I had to read them with good time. Enough time, sufficient time. I had to study. Not just reading, study them. So I was, I had textbooks for all the subjects. I did commerce, economics, literature, principle of accounting, health science. I did 8 subjects. I remember the other ones now. So all of them, I needed to read all of them. So that time, so I took my JAMB form. Don't forget, I said a friend to my elder brother told me that, look, you need to study harder, because students are being taught directly by teachers. They were failing. Yaba, they used to call it Yaba. They would say, Yaba will fail you, Yaba will fail you, Yaba will fail you.
No, they say jam will jam
you. will jam you. So that again helped me, because each time I remembered words like that, I know I had to go back, sit down again, and do more studying. So at the end of the day, I took my JAMB form by myself. I filled it, I submitted it, I did all of that. I didn't even tell anybody. I didn't tell anybody. Why? Because I didn't want to disappoint them.
In case anything happens.
In case anything would happen.
Do as if
nothing happened. So I didn't have to report to anybody. I didn't have to. So I took my JAMB. But there was this day, a friend of mine in Fidelity also came around, and I decided to disclose to him. He also took JAMB for that year. And I disclosed to him. I said, yes, I took JAMB form. I said, yes. He said, which university did you take? I said, University of Ibadan. He said, you shouldn't have chosen UI. Did you know anybody at UI? I said, no, I didn't know anybody. You should have chosen universities like Ilorin or this University of Benin and all of that. UI is too competitive for you. More so you didn't know anybody. And I didn't know anybody.
How did you get to know about you wanting to go for UI? Was it like things that you've seen people?
Oh, let me tell you, I went for secondary school. My secondary school was in Ibadan.
Okay.
Mokola.
Oh.
I used to go to UI as a secondary school student.
Oh.
I used to go and play around UI. So I used to see students carrying big books, So I was wondering. And I used to love the environment at UI. So I used to tell myself, I will come to UI. But by the time I took that form and I filled UI as my first choice, the reason why I did that was simply because of the fact that UI at, what's the place now? Agbowo.
Yeah,
is not far from Fidelity or Ilora. I will just come out of UI, take a bus, and I will drop at Idigba to go and collect food or money from Ilora. So it was because of the distance. That was proximity. That was my major reason for choosing UI. I didn't know that anything was competitive and all of that. I didn't know what my friend was telling me. I wasn't aware of that at all. It was not in my consciousness. It wasn't at all. So it was just the proximity that was my major reason. I said, for me to choose OAU or University of Ife, I couldn't have chosen Ife. But that distance, I couldn't have chosen Ilorin again because of the distance. So I just chose UI. That was just the reason. So we went on, and I wanted to do English and theater arts combined honors. Yes. So I sat down, I read. Then I knew some students used to go for jam coaching and all of that. But I didn't have the money to do that. But I took but one thing that I was made to realize was that, because I went through the jam syllabus, and there they made it clear that you needed to be above ordinary level. You get that? So I had that in my consciousness that whatever I was doing, I needed to be above ordinary. It has to be close to A level, advanced level. So I started studying as an advanced level student. All of these things, I knew I had to. If I was using 1 hour to study, I needed to increase that to 2 hours, 30 minutes. I needed to discipline myself the more. All of those things I did. My friends used to know that when it was time for me to do my studies, they knew me for that. Because I'd been trained to do that, to follow strictly.
Just regarding that, before you go ahead, now in those kind of situations, some people are always very shy of telling their friends. Nowadays, hanging out and want to go back. Did you ever had a situation like that?
Yes, I did. I did. Initially,
how did you manage it?
Initially, I did, because they would look at so by the time I did it once, twice, and at another time, they got to know that that is his style. So they adapted to my style. So I was able to go through that.
Just like a quote from Bishop Oyedepo, you say that it is foolishness to be shameful of what you do. So when you know this is what will help me.
Help me. So for you there is no point being foolish about it. Do it. Practice it. So I started practicing that. And let me tell you, later on, when my friends failed their exams and I passed, I was even given admission, and I will come to explain how that happened to you. They started now learning from me. The way I was doing it then, they now started doing it. And some of them were able to also make it after I had made it. Because they now started copying me. So this is the way to study. They didn't know how to study, which I had been taught by my English tutors in London. Now, so when that friend of mine told me I shouldn't have chosen UI, it was too late. I had submitted. And I remember my center was again at UI itself. My center was at Oyo. St. Benedict is Oyo. That was where I went to do my JAM examination. I remember what happened on that day. It was a Saturday in April. I can't remember the specific date now, but it was April. April 85. It was a Saturday. I had gone there to the exam hall. On getting to the exam hall, as soon as the question papers were distributed to us, they turned the papers, face down. And as soon as they said, start, and I turned the paper like this, everything went off from my head. I didn't just know what happened. All I had known, all I had taught myself, or I had been taught, went off from my brain. I didn't know what happened. You know what I did? I just put my head on the table like this, and I started praying. And something told me that, look, take back your confidence. After all, you are not going to report to anybody, even if you fail this examination. That was how everything started coming back. And I turned the paper again. And I started looking at the question and I started smiling.
I know this.
I know this. Okay. That was how I started. I now became my very self, bubbling with knowledge of the subjects. I did English language, I did literature, I did government, and what was the third subject now? English, literature, government, and economics. I started. For English, I remember the last question. You know, it used to be objective. The last question was, the teacher gave him a part on the back, in the back, at the back.
Why did you remember the question?
No, it's I remember very well.
It was such a moment.
It was such a moment. It was on the back. And I said, oh, somebody is going to give me a part on the back. Boy, you have done well. You've tried. So that was how I did that examination. Then the period of waiting for the result. Then, you know, I had stopped. My appointment had been terminated. I didn't have money, you know, to move around and all of that. So I couldn't even raise money to come from Fidelity to Ibadan when the result came out, JAMB result came out, to come and check whether I passed.
So it was like a time where it was being posted.
Yes, they will paste the thing on the wall. Later they will send the result. But before they did that, before it got back to Fidelity where my post office was, you know, it would be rather late. But you needed to come and check first to see that you had been admitted. So I didn't have money to take transfer from Fidelity to Ibadan to come and check the results at UI. So there was this day, a brother of mine who also did JAMB, but he was staying in Lagos then. He was coming to Ilora. So he came around and he told me that, results, Jade, no more. You go and check. No money. He said, okay, don't worry. He collected my exam number and all of that, all the details. He said in 2 weeks' time, he will go to Ilora. Then in 2 weeks, then he will go back to Lagos. But in 2 weeks' time, he will come back. That on his way back, he will branch at UI to check for me. So he did just that. So he came back and he gave me the results. And the results would simply show the scores for each of the 4 subjects. But it wouldn't say whether you are admitted or not. So he was able to get that for me. Of course, I did well in all the subjects, but the cutoff, I wouldn't know what the cutoff would be. So I got the results for each of the subjects, which, you know, was good for each of the subjects, very good. But again, what was going to be the cutoff? If you didn't make the cutoff, you know, you could pass all the subjects. So I got that. And I still needed to come to Ibadan to come and check whether I made the cutoff. At that time, they had pasted the list of those who made the cutoff. I didn't have money to come back. Until much later, when I was able to raise money and I came. And when I got to where the results were pasted, you know, very large a place like it because they, you know, so many students. I went to my department, because I was to do English and theater arts combined. So I checked through English, I didn't see my name there. So I went to the Department of Theater Arts, and lo and behold,
When you were going, you were like, I better.
my heart was pumping. Okay, my heart, I was alone. When I got to theater arts department, the list of theater arts department students that were admitted that year, lo and behold, my name was number 1. Not because probably I made higher results than the others, but because of Ajayi, the surname, which is because of the alphabet now. It was arranged alphabetically. So my name was, and did you know what? There were just 23 of us. Another thing, all the other names from number 2 downward to number 3, all of them had been ticked by somebody somewhere. Congratulations, you are lucky. All of these, they made a lot of comments. It was my only name, number 1, that had nothing on it. Nobody,
Only you and God.
only me and God, because nobody had come to check for me. Me that was supposed to come and check, I didn't have enough money to take transport from Benin to come and check, but my name was there as number 1. Okay. From that moment, I looked at you and I said, now I am a student of UI now. Meanwhile, my O-level results had come out earlier, and I made it. I made all the papers. All I was waiting for was for damn result and then the cutoff thing. And here, it was pasted on the board. And I looked at UI and environment. I said, yes, I am now an undergraduate in this university.
During the time of your secondary school,
Yeah.
the time you had the admission,
Yeah.
that stands for about how many years?
I said I worked.
Yes.
I worked for about 2-3 years. Yes. So before I got that admission. That was my major breakthrough in playwriting. I had to discipline myself. Me being appointed general manager by 2 different governors. It's God. Anything that is going to be successful, of quality, must be backed up with